All right, so I know Mark and Leslie are the people requesting the variance. Who is Timber?
I'm the engineer.
Okay, that's what I guessed, but I wasn't sure.
Thanks.
You do have a quorum.
Oh, Charlotte.
This is just a sound test. I'm sound testing the live.
Well, we have two not connected yet by audio. Hi, Charlotte.
Hello. How's everybody?
Good.
Fine, fine.
I'm just grateful to be able to stay home for a while.
Yeah, I bet you are.
You're right.
I have a problem. I can't go on mute, and I don't know why.
Who's that? Angie?
It's Angie.
Yes.
Angie, you should never be on mute.
I should always be on mute because I talk out of turn. Do you want to continue without audio? No.
Well, we got a quorum and it's 4:32. So let's call the policy committee meeting to order. First thing I need is approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Hi, Lucy.
Hello. I just came up from the lake, so excuse the look.
Oh, okay. Don't get water on us.
I won't.
All right, so we have some guests, and according to our rules, if they want to speak, they have 3 minutes at the beginning of the meeting. Mr. I know that's not your name, is it Timber? It's shortened, right?
Yeah, it's Tim Braun. And I'd be glad to just speak for one moment. I certainly don't need 3 minutes.
Okay, good.
The Bolins have been working for quite some time to get an on-site system approved for their home or the home that they want to build. And we've gone through several iterations and over quite a period of time, you know, starting back in September of last year. And they would just like to appeal to the board to grant a variance so that they could continue with this project and move to this beautiful lot and build a beautiful home. So that's really all we're asking for is consideration.
Okay, thank you. Just so you know, this is not going to be back and forth between the guests, okay? But if we ask you something, then it's nice that you're here. Is that the only one that wants to speak?
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Are you representing them? Are you their attorney, or what is your interest?
He's
I'm the engineer that has proposed a couple of system designs, and I've been working with the Bolins. We would like to obviously complete the design of the home as well. We have an architecture group. So I've just been working with the Bolins on this project from the very beginning.
Angie.
Thank you.
Angie,
Yes.
He's the author of the letter you have in your packet
Okay.
from McMahon Engineers. You see it?
The very first part of the packet, Angie.
Right
Oh,
under
hold
the
on.
agenda.
Got the packet, but I'm no.
Page 4 of 7.
Oh, I got 3 of 7, and I have 4 of 7. And my 4 of 7 is the plan of the new system. Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
All right.
Todd, where is Harbor Oaks Drive?
Why don't we start with Todd explaining everything?
Well, okay. To answer your question, Harbor Oaks is located on the east side of the river in McChesney Park off of Ventura Boulevard. It's right on the river. And the property that is in discussion is actually in a floodplain area. So that is why Mark and Leslie Bolin is submitting for a variance. And there are discussions from the past with Tim. So the variance was submitted to us around June 12th by Mark and Leslie Bolin. Basically, what they are requesting is installing a septic system for a replacement house on this property. So the variance that they're going for is under code section 86-77, which is one of the things, and we'll go through this, but just looking at the application is regarding a septic system being setbacks from a well. The other one is 86-29. That is I guess the priority variance is actually installing a holding tank in a floodplain area. After review of plans, our code, and the state sewage code, we put our recommendation on there, and it should be in your packet.
Mhm.
And let me turn that down. Apologize. In your packet, there'll be a statement of issue. And it does say that the current Winnebago County sewage code does not address permanent holding tanks. We do not. We only address temporary holding tanks. So it's stated right on the state of Illinois private sewers disposal code 905.140 does allow for holding tanks for private sewage disposal under the following guidelines. Whether site conditions such as the soils, water table, terrain, lack of size, other conditions that are not suitable to achieve compliance with the code for installing a private sewage disposal system. So that does fit in under the state of Illinois private sewage code. That's what he's going for this variance, is that type of tank, a permanent tank, because of the conditions of the soil and water table. That is that's the concern that we do have. The Winnebago County Health Department has approved one variance for a holding tank to allow the repair of an existing septic system for an occupied home in the floodplain. We did that. I think that was in 2008, the big flood in 2008. The petitioner has requested a variance under the Winnebago County Code section 86-77 to allow 75 feet to a well instead of 100 foot, and 86-29 to install a permanent holding tank for construction of a new residence replacing an existing structure. This property is located in a floodplain. Like I said, it's off of Ventura there. In the last of the state of issues, the holding tanks and floodplains have increased the risk of the public's health through leaching of untreated waste in waterways and dislodgement of the structure of the holding tank during flooding. That is, the risk is basically leakage of the holding tanks and also dislodgement. What I mean by that, actually hydraulically overloading and pushes the tank right out of the ground. And it can actually snap the service pipe between the house and the tank, which will cause leakage if that does happen. All right. Now, getting down to the staff recommendations, again, looking at both codes, the county code and state code. The variance code section 86-70 is not necessary. What I mean by that, because a holding tank is considered a septic tank. A septic tank only needs to be 50 feet. Holding tanks can You can't, holding tanks can be 50 feet from a well. So he was asking for 75 feet. So it's not even necessary as that variance.
Right.
Okay. So we don't even have to talk about that. He will actually meet it because he said he can make 75 feet. That's more than plenty under the code.
Mhm.
All right, second bulletin, the approval of variance of first 86-29 with the following conditions. We're willing to approve this holding tank as a staff. The contents of that holding tank must be removed and hauled and disposed by a hauler licensed with the state of Illinois in accordance with all applicable state and local laws, ordinances, rules, and regulations. We do license them also locally too, and state. So that is the actual licensed septic pumper. So that's the only one that can actually remove and haul it. The property owner must provide documentation to the health department showing routine removal and hauling and disposal of waste. We're asking for that on a monthly basis. The installation of a water meter with submission of the meter readings to the health department on a monthly basis. Now, and Mr. Braun, I think from my understanding, and I remember looking at your plans, that is that property, the proposed structure will be hooked up to public water, right? North Park?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. So those are the water meter readings that we will need on a monthly basis. Also with the pump documents from that licensed waste pumper on a monthly basis to the health department. Authorized person, a representative of the health department, must be allowed to inspect the holding tank and the premises at reasonable time, determine that the holding tank and all related items and equipment are being properly maintained, and that the owner is complying with all terms of this variance. Obviously, we would give notice that we were coming to the owner. All right. Property owner must post and maintain a security bond in the amount of $3 million issued by a licensed security company authorized to do business in the state of Illinois to remediate the effects of any discharge of sewage from a holding tank. The property owner shall be solely responsible for the cost of posting and maintaining the security bond. Okay. The variance must be recorded on the property with the Winnebago County Recorder's Office to his, her, heirs, assessors, administrators, and assigned. So basically, it stays with the property at all times if he ever sold it. And the last is conformance of all applicable laws, ordinances, rules, and regulations related to the installation, construction, operation, and maintenance of the holding tank granted through this variance.
Todd, have the Bolins been notified of your requirements?
No, not yet.
Okay.
It's being presented here to the policy committee of the Board of Health first.
Can I ask a couple of questions?
Of course.
Okay, the one that we previously approved, Todd, that was a permanent one also?
That was a permit one for a resident that was living in the house.
Okay,
The only solution to that, it was an existing house, somebody was being occupied, and that was the only solution at that time by an engineer also. That was,
okay. And is this, I didn't quite understand.
Yeah.
Do Mr. and Mrs. Bolin live on this property now? I was trying to figure out why this system needs to go in. Is this new construction or do they live there?
good question. Okay, let's step back a little bit from the observations that we saw that the house is vacant there. There's an existing house that is vacant. My understanding from the village of McChesney Park and Mr. Braun that the existing home will be removed and this new house will be built.
Todd, I have another question.
Yes.
Regarding your recommendations, are any or all of them subject to the owner? Is the owner objecting to any of these?
Like I said, it's just being presented at this time. So
You haven't seen him yet, Bob.
he has not seen it. Mr. McCreef. He has not seen this yet. I wanted to present it at the time to the policy committee of the Board of Health.
Does the
Todd?
engineer have any issues?
Todd, I have to ask the Steve Lidville question.
You got it.
I'm assuming there's no sewer line they can hook up to.
There is no sewer line available or accessible at this time.
Okay. The second thing is this surety bond. Who's that payable to? And has it got a term on it or is it non-cancelable? Maybe Charlotte knows.
Yeah. Charlotte, you want to speak on that or?
The surety bond, Charlotte? You're
Muted.
no,
Mute or?
you're muted for a reason.
Sorry, I was having technical difficulties. My
Oh,
mouth is
okay.
jumping. Off.
I thought you didn't want to tell us.
The requirement would be that it may be maintained at all times.
And who's it payable to?
Well, that's a good question.
I was just curious, but I mean, state of Illinois, the county, the health department.
Probably the state, well, I guess whoever would be responsible for the cleanup costs.
Okay. Then I don't want it to be the health department.
We'd have to work that one out.
Okay. Other questions?
Yeah. Charlotte, don't go away yet. First of all, I want the zoning of McChesney Park. This is in McChesney Park, am I correct?
You are correct.
I want the zoning department to give us a statement saying that they no longer require that when homes that are on the river cannot be completely torn down, that they have to, so much of it has to remain, and then they kind of build over it. This is what I have known for the past. I want to know if that law, if that ordinance has been changed, or if there's a new one to cover that. Between that and McChesney, the Park Village, both of them, I want to see letters saying that they okay this.
But I read here that it wasn't going to be torn down completely. Is that right?
My understanding that the new house is being built on stilts and the old house is going to be removed. Maybe Mr. Braun could answer that question, but I thought that's what the plans were.
Well, that's what we would like to do. But if it's necessary, we could maintain one wall. And, you know, it seems unusual that would be required, but if that's required, we can plan around that and make sure that happens.
Sandra,
Wait,
Sandra.
on page 5 of 7, this Village of McChesney Park referred to this as a remodeling project.
That doesn't seem like what
That would be the implication that it's not new or total new construction.
I thought I read it somewhere.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, and that was, we discussed with them the possibility of leaving one wall up so that we could call it a remodel. If that's what we need to do, then that's what we'll do.
Do you also have a letter from the Department of, because it says it in a floodplain. Do you have a letter saying that you can build in the floodplain?
Yes, we have submitted this to the Department of Natural Resources and the Corps of Engineers, and both organizations have signed off, and we have permits from them for this project.
You've seen those, Todd?
Yes, I do have a copy of that. That is true.
Okay.
Okay.
That was actually one of the first things that we requested right off the bat before we even started looking at it. And Mr. Braun did provide that to us.
The other thing is that, are you saying that pump is going to be on the river side, or is that pump going to be on the, I guess it would be the east side of the house?
It will be on the east side, kind of as close to where the garage is going to be as possible, so that we can, first off, that's the most uphill area It's the highest area on the lot. And secondly, it will be easier for servicing.
Yes, I'm very familiar with that area over there. Another question too, Charlotte, for you. Because there's a lot of questions here and things that could happen. I want to make sure that Winnebago County Health Department is held harmless of anything that goes wrong with this, especially if we have another heavy flood. Because not only is it in a floodplain, I also think it's also in a watershed of some type. So I want to make sure that there is no way Winnebago County Health Department or Winnebago County can be held responsible or sued for anything that goes wrong with this or isn't later down the line. Something comes up that says it's not legal. Can we do that, Charlotte? Are you there, Charlotte?
She's having trouble with her
Mouse.
volume. Yeah.
I think your mic is shut off.
Well, I think she's trying to turn it on. You can't get it?
Can you put it in the chat box? Can you put it in the chat box?
Or can she shake her head?
Well, but
Charlotte, can you call Sandra? Call Sandra and give her the answer.
Yeah.
My concern is that is not a very big lot. I have had a customer that we built a home on a lot just about like that one and the problems we went through with it. So I truly want us as Winnebago County Health Department to be very cautious of what we can do and can't do, because that one area, it's not even 50, towards the road isn't even 50 feet across. The full width of that lot is basically
hey there,
on the.
I was trying to call in your landline.
So that's why I have a lot of questions in regards to this.
We just lost Charlotte's picture, so she's going to be in communication with Sandra on the phone. While we're waiting for that, any other questions? Anybody else have some thoughts on this?
No.
Pat, turn your microphone on.
I remember in 2008 that there were a number of properties that, in my recollection, were in that area that were basically condemned and purchased by the village, I thought.
There are.
This is that same area, isn't it?
I think the area you're talking about is a little south of this particular area. I might be wrong, but I think it's a little bit more south, or Rockton, Roscoe area. A lot of homes up there were condemned also.
Okay, thanks, Angie. I just was trying to remember why in those places we felt that they couldn't redeem it with a system.
Because we're talking there on Ventura is right off the Latham Street Bridge going north.
Mm-hmm.
And that flooded down there. That flooded almost all the way up to Victory.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just those houses right on the river. It went up further. And those were the ones that I believe were tore down.
Okay, thank you.
If I can interject on this, yes, the area was more on Shore Drive, which is south of that area, but I think it was an elevation thing in all of McChesney Park. I did contact the village to see if IEMA did reach out to the owners of this house to present plans to be a part of that removal of that house. And I never got any information back from the village.
Sandra.
Okay, in discussion with Charlotte, which is really why we went with the surety bond, so that we felt that the bond was sufficient enough, should there be damage or property, again, for any cleanup or mitigation, that the surety bond, which would follow the property and be filed on the property, would be required over the length of time that holding tank septic system was in place.
Okay.
So that would cover anything other than that property, like if we contaminated a couple of wells out there because of this property, would that cover that too, or would it come back at us from the neighbors that might get contaminated?
Well, Angie, that's why the surety bond was put in the amount of $3 million.
All right. $3 million doesn't go very far anymore.
Agreed. And I think we have to come back to, I mean, this is an unusual request. We typically flood plains, concerned with all of that area. Those of us who responded to the flood as the local health department last spring recognize the amount of first responder services that were required for that region as well. It is in the village though, and we have understood from the village that it's a remodel. So the intent of the homeowner is to remain on site and live in that particular home.
Just out of a sense of curiosity, how much does a $3 million surety bond cost? Does anybody know? No? Wow. Okay.
I got a question. So they say that they could retain one wall. Does it have to be a wall that still shows an exterior wall, or could they make it an interior wall and cover it on the outside?
I guess we asked the, Todd, you know?
No, I do not know. That would obviously be with the Village of McChesney Parks Building
I was
Department.
just curious. Yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah, I don't have that expertise on that.
No, I actually think there's more than just one wall that has to remain. I might be very wrong, but it seems to me that there has to be more than just a wall. It's been a couple of years since I've worked with property down there, especially with building, and things do change. I know this family has not lived in that house for several years. It's been unoccupied. And that was my other thought, since they have not, the one we did back several years ago, it was a woman who had lived there forever. And that's because of the remodel with her house, that's why you did that tank. This is a house that no one's lived in for a couple of years. And so that's what I'm.
Yeah, that's what we observed also.
It seems like that letter that says remodel just is, I don't know, it is very misleading, because one wall to me is a lot more than a remodel.
Thank you.
Well, no, it's retaining one wall in the remodel, but we don't know what village's requirements are for remodel.
Right, yeah.
So it seems like the variance needs to have another requirement in it, that the Village of McChesney Parks zoning be met, or we have some evidence that it will be met with this project, and that it be a remodel, not a complete rebuilding, if that's what their zoning requires.
Exactly.
Okay. Thoughts on that?
Well,
Todd, you have-
McChesney Park is saying in their letter, I would classify it as a remodel. I mean, the community development director says that.
Yeah, except Mr. Braun says they're ripping it all down and starting fresh.
Don't they have to have a permit for their plan ultimately?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes, they have to submit something to the building department. And one of the requirements obviously is getting approval of that septic system first before they can get a building permit.
So would we need on the variance approval that we make sure they get that okay from Village of McChesney Park?
Good
You can
point.
make a condition.
Todd,
Yes.
are you comfortable with this, providing they follow your recommendations?
Yes, I am. If they follow those recommendations and do their submittals on a monthly basis. And that's one of the things, and observing what those water meter readings and what is being pumped out of that septic tank. Obviously, it should be balanced. It should be equal. Then we know that there is not leakage. So as long as we have that oversight, I do feel comfortable with it.
Sandra?
I think that's also, we don't typically have an onerous, I'm going to say, requirement of monthly submittals, right? Because most holding tanks have much more capacity in those. But this would allow us to make sure that at any one time, there would be a minimal amount of leakage should there be a breach of any sort. So there are conditions not only for the surety bond, but also similar like not packing your freezer too much in case of a power outage. It's really keeping that level of waste product as low as possible in that system should there be a breach.
I see.
Other questions?
And again, we would be able to determine that because we would know what the meter readings and what's being pumped. That's how we would know if there's been a breach. Yes.
Can we make a condition that we would okay that retaining tank if we can get an okay from McChesney Park of how much that house has to retain its normal footprint before we go further? Because I don't want just one wall. There's going to have to be more than just one wall because that doesn't hold up anything. Can we do a condition like that?
Well, that's not our requirement. It's the Village of McChesney Park, whatever their requirement is.
Now, before we give complete on the, before we give a yes on the holding tank, can that be submitted to them so that we know that it's going to be feasible?
Pat, you had your hand up? Mic's off.
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
I just did. I was going to say, can I make a motion that we approve this pending documentation from the village saying that the design has been approved as the remodel they described it as?
Yeah, you
I'll
can.
second
Can I, hold on.
Motion on the floor. It's been seconded. Sandra, you're speaking to the motion.
Yes, I am. I would suggest that that the language similar to what it could be applicable with all required municipal code and, for definition of a remodel.
That sounds
would
really good. I think that's what Pat
fine
said.
with that as a friendly amendment to my motion.
Thank you.
Pat, I heard it exactly the way Sandra repeated it. So
Me too. And
I
that seems right. If the seconder is okay with that, I'm good with it.
I don't even know who's, Lucy. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Who else wants to?
One more thing, maybe of discussion, if we can.
Yeah.
If sewer ever did come by, I think that's essential. And there's nothing in the plans. Ventura and that whole area is up and down. There'd have to be pump stations and all that. But for some reason, that it would be another thing. Probably, I should have added that it should be required to hook up to sewer if that comes available. But I would have to amend that. But I just thought of that.
To begin with, they'd never be able to get if the sewer was coming in the street, they would never be able to get a mortgage if they didn't hook up.
Yeah, but if they're just staying there
Forever?
Yeah.
Forever. They can stay there with that. But if they do put sewer in the street and they decide they'd like to sell it or pass it on to someone else, they would have to hook up to city sewer because they're already hooked up to city water.
The proposed plan is to hook up to public water. If sewer did, I agree. Well, it'd be logical to do it anyways, obviously. But
sometimes that logic has to be in writing.
Thank you, Ms. Gorel. Thank you.
Charlotte. I hope we hear you.
Okay,
Yes.
let's try this again. All right. Sorry about that earlier.
That's all right.
Old computer. I would just recommend maybe an additional condition that if it's public sewer becomes available, that they be required to hook up to it in some reasonable amount of time, a year, 2 years, whatever would be reasonable.
That sounds good.
Do I hear an amendment to the motion to add that to the?
I'm willing to amend my motion to add that.
I'll second the amendment.
Any discussion of this is for 2 years?
Yeah, I was going to say, what's the timeline? 1 or 2 years?
2 years. Pat's got 2 fingers up. That's 2 years for the amendment. So we're going to, any other discussion on the amendment? All right, now we need a vote on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment to the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that brings us back to the motion. It's been amended to require, if the sewer is available, that they hook up within 2 years. We also we are covered now, Sandra, with the local zoning and everything, that they would meet that?
Correct.
Okay. We don't need it to say anything further about that.
No, you included it in the amendment.
The First Amendment.
Right, the First Amendment.
First motion, yeah.
Yeah, on the
So, now we need a vote on Pat's motion to add the requirements for the zoning. And the city's okay. Am I right? Am I on the right track here?
Yes,
Okay,
because that was the First Amendment that I put on my main motion was to approve the proposal.
okay. So the motion is to approve the variance with the change of getting the local approvals. And we also have a change of requiring sewer hookup within 2 years if it's available. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And this is all subject to the people requesting it being able to agree to all these things, since they're
Correct.
finding out about it right now. So this might come back to us, but this is what we have right now.
Don't we have to go back then to the main motion that we approved that we approve the permit?
Okay,
With
I thought that was part of your motion.
We approved the amendment with all conditions.
Yeah, I'm fine with that then. Yeah.
Are you fine with that, Charlotte? You think we got it? This is a lot harder on Zoom.
I think maybe to be safe, I think you've approved the amendments. Let's go back and approve the variance with all of the conditions stated, including the amendment.
Yeah.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve the variance with the 2 amendments to it, to the requirements.
I think that was my original motion.
Yeah,
Okay.
and all of the conditions and recommendations in the
Are added to that.
staff.
Okay, and Lucy seconded that.
I
think.
seconded whatever we just did.
Okay, all right, now we'll vote on the variance request with both amendments and additional requirements. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, variance is approved with those additional requirements and all the original requirements from the department staff. I'm assuming we don't have an executive session. If we did, I don't even know how you do that on Zoom.
We go into closed and we go offline then at that point. No, we do not have anything for an
Very
executive
simple.
session.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Any other additions? And we will bring this up at the meeting next Tuesday?
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday?
That's correct.
So it's got to be approved at the full board meeting, but so far the committee has approved it with the additions. Nothing else?
No, I guess I'll go back to my 5 grandchildren we have up for the week.
Oh,
Have
bless
fun.
you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, I moved to, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Advanced? All right. Thank you all.
Thank
See you all
you.
next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.